666.
Moving on to topic 2, Saudi Arabia grants citizenship to a group of talented expats. Richard, Saudi Arabia is, at least for a few people, redefining citizenship. A royal decree issued last Thursday grants citizenship to, quote, experts and exceptional global talents. I assume we're among those, who will contribute to the growth of the kingdom, according to the news carried by the state news agency, the Saudi press agency. The naturalization program will seek out individuals in Islamic scholarship, medicine, science, culture, sports, technology, with a view to creating a, quote, attractive environment to cultivate and retain exceptional talent to help achieve Vision 2030 and its goals. Richard, you've spent time growing up in Saudi Arabia. You have been following the kingdom for as long as you've lived, pretty much. Citizenship in Saudi Arabia isn't something that has changed much over time, despite all the changes going on there now.
No. Well, identity has changed, and we've talked about that. Identity is evolving, and we know that the kingdom started under Prince Abdullah, but also obviously with King Salman and Mohammed bin Salman. There's a move to try and promote a national identity versus a tribal or a religious identity, and not necessarily to supplant it, but to augment it. And so that's an identity. Citizenship. This is sort of the boutique citizenship that other countries have started. Qatar did it initially in 2018. Singapore has done it. UAE has done it. So they're moving along this line. Saudi Arabia, as ever, has a little twist on it, and I think it's interesting because the first beneficiaries. So there's 27 that these were awarded to, and there's a whole list. And you have luminaries in law, medicine, science, technology, cultural, sports, that sort of thing. But unlike Qatar or UAE, about a quarter of these 27 new citizens are Sunni and Shiite religious leaders, some of whom don't live in Saudi Arabia. And this is interesting because I think Prince Mohammed bin Salman is trying to convey a transition to a more moderate view of Islam, because all these scholars, and again, Sunni and Shia, were, except for one, were signatories of the 2020 Mecca Declaration. It called for cultural and religious tolerance and understanding. And so this was from the Muslim World League, which I gather the Muslim World League is a vehicle that Prince Mohammed has paid a lot of attention to in trying to redirect its message to a more religiously tolerant message and promoting interfaith dialogue. So again, Saudi Arabia is doing what Qatar and UAE and Singapore and others have done, but with a nod to the realities that it's the seat of the Islamic holy sites, and it's a world leader in the world of Islam and Islamic countries throughout the world. So it's speaking to a specific audience with these awards and the people that they named, which I think is interesting. Again, this is sort of boutique citizenship. It's not the kind of citizenship that occurs if you've been 30 years working in Saudi Arabia and have raised your family there, where you might have access to citizenship, and someday that might come. All these countries that have a very strong national identity, it's a difficult thing. It's not like the United States. It's just always sort of seen it as an immigrant country and a polyglot, and all are welcome. Well, not so much, recently, but historically that's been the habit. Some of these aren't habits for Saudi Arabia or the GCC, other GCC countries that have done it. But it's an interesting step, and it's a nod to the fact that they need to always have to continue to diversify their talent base and the human capital that they attract to the country.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about before the show today. This sort of seems like there aren't a lot of people affected by this yet. So it's an interesting story, but it's not very impactful to somebody who's been working in Saudi Arabia for years or decades, and feels like Saudi Arabia is their home now and would like to become a citizen. This is sort of like being knighted, like we were talking about. I mean, it's sort of
Yeah,
like
it is.
it's sort of like, hey, these people are really important and significant, and they're Saudis. But I thought this was interesting too, because one thing that sticks out to me in the Saudis, that many Saudis that I know and have met, and the same I'm sure with you, is that they're very proud to be Saudis. They're very proud of their heritage. They take great pride in it, and they consider it culturally significant, not better than others, but just very important to them. And I think that's one reason why, there will always be sort of a, excitement for Saudis about being a Saudi, and being able to understand other Saudis as families, based on how far they go back, and it's an interesting story. This is an interesting story direction. It's not really impactful yet. But Saudi did grant citizenship first to a robot before any non-Saudi. So
yes, a woman robot who was uncovered. So maybe, these are subtle signals, and that's what I mean. Sort of, when the quarter of these are religious scholars, they're trying to send a message. We'd like to promote a more moderate Islam. And it's funny, you talked about Saudis and Americans are similar in a lot of ways. Americans think we have a destiny. Many Americans think we have a destiny. Saudis feel the same way about their country. Mm-hmm. As to your point, there is a lot of pride, and there is a sense that it's special and has a significant role to play.
Yeah, well, Americans are special, so it's true. But
it's funny. It's funny, and this is an aside. There's always been historically, and people have commented on it, there's a natural affinity of Saudis have for Americans, and I'm thinking many Americans have for Saudis if you get to know them. And I think this is the Saudis have liked Americans, and this is really broad brush stuff. Tend to be pretty open, tend to laugh. Are very strong in terms of family, and it's funny when you look at the early Americans, business people and other things that went to Saudi Arabia. They're from the oil patch, and so very strong family affiliations. Obviously, that resonates with Saudis. The other thing is Saudi Arabia is, the U.S. when the United States was founded. Pretty much everybody, Europe, looked down upon us as sort of unsophisticated, uncivilized newbies. We were seen as kind of rubes. And, in terms of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf oil states, seen the same way. I mean, these ancient civilizations in Egypt and Syria, Mesopotamia, Iraq, Iran, and they see these upstarts, these unsophisticated, Bedouin, camel drivers and desert dwellers rise and start creating cities and have global political influence, and people look down on them. Same as Europeans look down on us. And I'm just saying there's interesting parallels. We could go off on a tangent on that. But, in terms of pride in their country, it is palpable. Just like Americans have pride in their country, there are similarities.
It's always interesting to think about how a few of my friends from the UK think of America. They're just like, so you guys speak English, but you have guns and you can just kind of do whatever you want, and it's so big. It's funny to think about America as like formerly in many areas a British colony, and now the differences are very huge. They're obviously one of our biggest allies in the world, but it's just very, very interesting to think about.
Your historical sites are 300 years old. I mean, get real.
Yeah, the oldest building is 1670 instead of 430.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty significant.
Well, look at our Roman aqueduct. Oh, we got a target.
We have 2 targets in this town.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting story for Saudis, and certainly you would echo this. They are the most hospitable people in the entire world. It's just honestly hard to argue that. So very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if this expands over time and they become more like Spain or France, where like, you know, it takes a decade to become a citizen, but if you come and work and put in the time and contribute, you can become a citizen. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually goes down there.